You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Yesterday was such a strange day. I mean, Tucker Carlson gets fired from Fox News. Don Lemon gets fired from CNN News. The head of NBC Universal basically gets fired or leaves. And Brett Favre is a Jet. I think I feel sorry for Brett the most. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Okay, that bit might have been funny if it was either 15 years ago or whatever it was when Brett Favre went to the Jets, or if I'd actually used the name Aaron Rodgers, which was supposed to be. So, yeah, because Aaron Rodgers is doing the same thing Brett Favre did.
Watch Brett Favre try to negotiate Aaron Rodgers as his replacement when he goes to jail.
Nice. Yep. You know, the people in Minnesota are going, he's coming here next. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a from Green Bay to Minnesota to New York. That's just kind of weird. Being that he's going the same place that Brett Favre went to when Green Bay decided they were done with Brett Favre and wanted to go to Aaron Rodgers. Now they're getting rid of Aaron Rodgers so they can go to Jordan Love. George Lucas has that clip about it's like poetry, it rhymes. That is weird. And they didn't get much. I don't do a lot of sport talk, but it is draft week, and I'm got my mind set for the draft because I will be watching. I'm a big Carolina Panther fan. But they didn't get much for him. If you really look at it, it looks like it's a big deal. But what it turns out to be is that they swap ones. They swap a 5 and a 6. They give them a 2 and a second-round pick the following year that might move up to a first if Aaron Rodgers plays 65%. So they really gave him 2 second-round picks, one being conditional. Not really a lot for a guy like that, but all right, let's get things rolling here. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is April 26th, and we're hurtling towards the middle of the year, but we're hurtling towards my doom as this weekend will be my birthday, and I will be very, very, very old. So let's see who's here and what's going on. Is it the 25th? I am just screwing it up today. All right, it's going to be one of those shows, you can tell. Let's see. Triple B is here. Ed, hey Ed. Triple B is driving home though, so 10 and 2, man. Keep those hands on the wheel. Yep. Ed caught my Brett Favre mistake. Let's see. Pretty good on the Circle of Life. Yes, definitely. Congrats on getting Bryce Young, Dan. It hasn't happened yet, and I don't want Bryce Young. He's tiny and fragile.
Yeah, but they wanted C.J. Stroud until they got his
Wonderlic
cognitive exam.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's dumber than me, which isn't saying much because I'm on so much cold medicine. I forgot to come to the office for a minute.
Well, the other thing about C.J. Stroud that's like you is you both can take a hit.
But ting.
No, I wish the Panthers hadn't traded up and just hung back and maybe picked up Anthony Richardson or, I'm not sold on this year's draft class and what they gave up to get up to take him, but maybe he'll prove me wrong. So let's see. Well, the 25th, but yeah, it's because he's 29, 39. Hey to everyone here. Well, hey, Kenneth, how you doing? So, hey, I'm just hoping they don't draft Hendon Hooker because we do have a history of drafting very old quarterbacks with Chris Weinke. So, all right, let's get to the comic talk. I'm sure you guys are tired. When is the draft? The draft is Thursday night. Will be round 1. Friday will be rounds 2 and 3, and then 4 through 7 will be on Saturday. I am addicted to watching the NFL draft. The first time I ever watched it, I had gone to Vegas with my brother and his friends for a bachelor party. It wasn't my brother's bachelor party, it was his best friend. But I was also sick. So, and I got there, I felt worse. So basically, I would spend a little time in the casino and I would go up and lay in my room. And it turns out the draft was that weekend. So I ended up watching the NFL draft mostly while I was laying in Vegas. And that was the year the Panthers drafted Ray Caruth, and we know how well that turned out. And if you don't, Ray Caruth was the guy that killed his girlfriend and the police found hiding in the trunk of his own car. So, all right. But yeah, so the draft is this weekend. Do you know where it's streaming free anywhere? You should be able to get it on, I'm sure someone's going to be streaming it on, on YouTube. Look for the NFL's YouTube page. They'll probably have it. So ESPN will be playing it live, and the NFL Network will be as well if you have either of those. So if we didn't have shows Thursday night, I could do a live, watching of it. Get Kyle on there too. Just critique the picks. That could be fun. Anyway, all right, let's get into it. We got a bunch of news to cover today. And CinemaCon's going on right now, so we got things coming out of CinemaCon. But we're going to start with some interesting stuff from stuntman turned director Chad Stahelski. Stahelski? It's a tough name. He's one of the co-creators of John Wick, but he was also one of the people that turned in a pitch idea to Marvel for the upcoming Blade movie. So he wanted to direct Blade. Kyle will be in Parkersburg, West Virginia, visiting his cousin Mothman on Thursday. Do you bring out a lighter to get him to come out and find you?
Barbecue.
Okay. So, I think the John Wick, I think Stahelski would be a great pick for the MCU or for DC or whatever, but he's not seeing that in his future anymore. He was doing an interview with The Direct and said, I'm a big fan of the genre. I love Batman. I love the Marvel world. I love the first Iron Man to death. I love James Gunn's first Guardians to death. These are milestones in cinema. I just also think that there are people that get that IP better than me. I know my sweet spot. I do better when there are no limits. I do better when I can bend the rules. I like to be a little more subversive. So maybe even up to 4 or 5 years ago, I would have pretty much taken the shot, I think. Now, I've kind of hopefully evolved as a filmmaker. I don't know. I feel comfortable in creating things. I feel comfortable working with other people to try and build something. Look, what I'm saying is there are great IPs out there and there are people already doing it, I'm going to swing for the cheap seats over here. I'm going to go big and try to make my own stuff. Someone's got to keep trying to get some new IPs in the game. I think I'm going to go try that for a little while. Now, if you look at John Wick, having reached 4 films, and now they're getting a spin-off movie with the ballerina and a spin-off series with the Continental, I think he's created his own cinematic universe. just kind of saying there definitely is a John Wick cinematic universe. Perhaps they should look into picking up Good Boy and telling the story from the other end just for the fun of it. Any of you who are fans of the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves, and are wondering if they're going to get a sequel, well, still there's no word about it, but we can at least kind of get a better feel for what's going on. The film is still in theaters. Yeah, I think it took the 6th spot this week, which is pretty much all the scraps left after the Mario movie, and Evil Dead Rise made $25 million in 2nd place, and then everything else kind of trickled down. Well, Dungeons and Dragons took $5.4 million, which brings it up to an 82.1 million domestic total right now. Now, if we compare that to another recent movie, we can look at, say, the 2017 Power Rangers film. Now, that did a total of 85.3 million. It also didn't get a sequel. But don't let that be discouraging, because Power Rangers is still in theaters, so there's a chance it'll keep going. And, Dungeons and Dragons is still in theater. And it's getting a much better reaction. If you go over to Rotten Tomatoes and take a look, it has a 90% critic rating and a 93% audience rating, which means that there's probably still going to be a few more people going to see it. It may hit theaters again this weekend. If it stays in theaters another couple weekends, maybe it could push towards 100 million. And I think that's kind of the cutoff range, but also with how popular and how well it's being talked about, I think it'll do well in the home video market. So, and the fact that I don't think it's locked into, that's not one of the major companies with streaming service. That means that they're going to sell it to one of the streaming services, so that's even more money. So yeah, my fingers are still crossed that there's going to be a sequel, because I think it's a pretty good franchise and start of something cool. But I think once it hits streaming, the audience base will grow, which means that if they come back with a sequel, it'll probably get a better opening, and do better. So CinemaCon is going on right now. As I said, it started yesterday, and Sony had their time. And they started off by showing a teaser trailer for Kraven the Hunter. Now, I don't think it's online, but we're seeing a lot of recaps of it. And this one has Aaron Taylor Johnson. You probably know him from Kick-Ass or Bullet Train, or as Quicksilver in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now, he plays Kraven, or Sergei Kravenov, I think it's the full name. Anyway, Taylor Johnson came out, by the way, and said that this is going to be an R-rated movie. He's by video, but so they're doing this as an R-rated movie, which kind of blows my mind if you think about it, because Morbius could have been R-rated, Venom could have been R-rated, and that probably would have helped both those movies, because they weren't pulling in the general audience. So, oh yeah, I think Kyle agreed. I'm not sure if that's Kyle or Jay, but missed the opportunity to make Venom and Jay. Okay, yeah, so that would have been helpful, but this one's going to be R-rated, and from the sound of it, the trailer was pretty gruesome. There's even a scene where Kraven bites a guy's nose off, turns and spits it at the camera. Not sure if that's a selling point, but the film's going to have Russell Crowe playing Kraven's father, and he's teaching a young Sergei about being a predator. Fred Heschinger from White Lotus is going to be playing Dimitri, Kraven's brother, who many of you probably know in the comics is also the Spider-Man villain, the Chameleon. So we got 2 Spider-Man villains there, and it turns out There's a third. We're getting rhino sightings. The rhino is supposed to be playing, or supposed to be in the movie, along with, we don't know who's playing Rhino yet, but also in it is Ariana DeBois, who is going to be playing Calypso, who at one point in the trailer calls Craven a lunatic. Another point, Chameleon says he's just another man hunting for trophies. So, getting a kind of a vibe for what this movie is going to be. But we got a release date finally. It's going to be out this October on the 6th. So it is trying to follow in the Venom footsteps of October. Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage both did pretty well for October releases. So maybe Craven could do it too. I think Morbius was a January, February release, and that didn't do nearly as well. So also at CinemaCon, they showed 14 minutes of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Deadline describes that one as Miles Morales retreating to relax in his bedroom, but he is soon met by Gwen Stacy. She wants to get out of the house, but he's grounded. Is Spider-Man grounded? She asked. So, of course, this leads to the two of them swinging across the city. We get a lot of animation flashes similar to the kind of trippy style that we had in the first one, interspersed with rough footages that some of it still needs to be polished because the film is still being finished. It's not out till June 2nd. And then they stop and have a tender moment together. And at one point, it said that in every universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man. And in every other universe, it does not end well. Ed says, I don't know, another shot at a Spidey villain movie, but no Spidey. I hope it works. Yeah. I'm not sure what Sony's trying to do. There's other ways they could do it. I don't know. I think they I think they are like how DC has been. They need a single vision to put it all together. So, also out of CinemaCon yesterday was Sony said that the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife will move the story back to New York. McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, Paul Rudd, and Carrie Coons will all be returning. Jason Reitman, who directed the first one, will only be producing the sequel, though he did co-write it with Gil Keenan, who will be directing this time. And adding to the cast is an interesting lineup here. Logan Kim, Celeste O'Connor, Kamal Nanjiani, Patton Oswalt, James Acaster, and Emily Allen Lind. So it's going to be some interesting new people. So that was yesterday at CinemaCon. Today at CinemaCon has been Warner Brothers Discovery. And a lot of little things have come out. There's a trailer for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And for some reason, CinemaScope seems to have the trailer. Nobody else does, not on the Disney's YouTube site. But if you put in Aquaman, that's the first thing that pops up. And they posted it 2 days ago. And from the descriptions I'm hearing of the trailer, it does seem to be the trailer. So I don't know what's going on there. There's also a new Flash trailer, and that's online. You can find that. And they did a trailer for Dune Part 2. Haven't seen that one online yet. They also showed extended footage from the upcoming Wonka movie, which has Timothée Chalamet and Hugh Grant in it. So Chalamet is in back-to-back Warner Brothers projects with Wonka and Dune. They also showed extended footage from Barbie with Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. But the big surprise move is that David Zaslav came out to address CinemaCon. And it's not that normal that the head of, the bigwig would come out at CinemaCon. You don't see Iger coming out, those guys. So Zaslav showing up is pretty interesting and I think it's part of trying to show their commitment to the theaters. Yeah, Ed, as in Willy Wonka. Leonard says Sony is throwing poop at the wall and seeing what sticks. They hope Craven will be their Joker movie. Yeah, that's pretty good analogy, Leonard. Give me 1 second. Little iced tea. There we go. I'm starting to sound like Kyle. All right. Well, Zaslav came out and kind of addressed, because Warner Brothers got a lot of heat from theater owners when during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, they decided they weren't going to hold their movies. They were going to put them on HBO Max instead of going to the theater. They did that with The Suicide Squad. They did that with the first Dune movie, and it really hurt. So, with Zaslav coming in, one of the things he has to do is restore the faith that theater owners have in Warner Brothers. So I think him showing up there is part of that. And he says, we do not believe in streaming movies. Movies in theaters perform substantially better when we bring them to HBO Max later than any of the direct-to-streaming movies. We said it 9 months ago. We said it 6 months ago. We have never felt stronger about it. There's no purer form of storytelling than motion picture business. Warner Brothers Discovery is not in the retail business, not in cable, not broadband, not phone. We are just storytellers. Zaslav said that when he started, Warner was down to 6 movies a year at the merger. Now he says, we are up to 16 movies and we want to do more than 20 a year. We are all over the next couple of years with motion picture storytelling, but we do need your help. We need to innovate the experience, to focus on getting people in theaters in an environment that continues to be contemporary. A lot of what you are doing is helping. If we can do that, this industry will be stronger than it's ever been. Now, proof of their commitment to the theaters came this last weekend in the form of Evil Dead Rise. Like Blue Beetle, Batgirl, stuff like that, this was a movie that was originally intended to stream on HBO Max. This was the previous regime's decision. Zaslav came in, he killed some movies, he moved others to theatrical release. Evil Dead Rise was one of the ones they moved, and the film made $25 million at the box office this weekend. They wouldn't have made that if they went straight to streaming. So you can see there that that's what they're trying to do, that they are trying to recommit to that. Let's see, what did I miss? Ed says, how are you all getting sick when you're thousands of miles apart? Computer virus. Maybe. The magic of the EXP. The experience, yeah. So, all right, guys, that leads us to our first break. So I will check the news wires, see if anything has popped up. And when we come back, we'll start talking Iron Man 2. There's some questions I have. Be right back.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Comic Collectibles is here for you every Wednesday with AR Comics for 2 very important reasons. To sell you rare, one-of-a-kind comics that you'll love, and to confuse AR with old man talk. You see, Rex and John are, how should I put this, ancient as the roots of the mountains. So every week, Rex and John fill in AR in yet another area of pop culture that he missed because he's too young, just didn't have the time, or just really doesn't care about. It's a real public service they provide. Come buy some super rare and unique comics, while old men explain long-dead sci-fi shows to a younger man making that confused puppy face. Every Wednesday from 6 to 8 Eastern with Rex, John, and AR Comics. Comic Collectibles on The Experience. Comic culture and sales.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We got a great lineup today. We have, right after this, I will be joined by Jay and Kyle, and Kyle's raspy voice, for In Stores This Week, where we'll be talking about 9 new books that are coming out this week, from the continuation, almost to the conclusion, of Armageddon Game, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle event. The return of Money Shot from Vault, also Neighbors, and a very good Star Wars Adventures one-shot that, hey, Triple B, welcome home. So that's it. And then after that will be Minute to Skim It, where the crew from Space Cadets go through a lot more books rapidly. And then after that will be Mint Hunter. So it's a really good lineup tonight. Stick around for all of that. Let's see. The rewatch is continuing. So I watched, on Sunday night, I watched Iron Man 2. Now, I'm going, again, I didn't plan on doing the chronological watch. It more just kind of happened naturally. I was looking for, I wanted to rewatch the first Captain America movie, and it turned out that was the start of the chronological thing. I'm like, okay, I can do this. But Iron Man 2, which came out after The Incredible Hulk, but canonically actually takes place before the Hulk. And that's why that little mini, the short they did called The Consultant, that's why it's called The Consultant, because that's explaining why Robert Downey Jr. went to go talk to General Thunderbolt Ross at the end of the Hulk, is that he was going to try to recruit the Hulk, but they sent Banner because they knew, they sent Stark because they knew that he would piss off Ross. So it says, I rewatched Mando season 1 and 2, and I'm so glad I did. I'd forgotten or missed a lot of the first watch. It was fun. Oh yeah, I'm gonna kind of do a rewatch on that soon too. That is a lot of fun. What's interesting is having rewatched both first Iron Man and now second Iron Man again, and then watching Mando, you do pick up on some things that Jon Favreau did in Mando that were kind of nods to Iron Man, little moments. And I don't want to point them out specifically, but I know that as I was watching, I kept seeing little things like, oh, that's just like from the first Iron Man movie, or this was from that one. So there's a neat connection there. And in a lot of ways, I think Paz Vizsla was the war machine of the Star Wars universe. You know, big rocket or big guns and all that. So yeah, Ed says he noticed it too. Cool. So all right, so let's talk about Iron Man 2. And I'm going to get to the elephant in the room first. Do you guys remember how the palladium that he's using in his arc reactor is killing him? That is the big MacGuffin in the room, basically. That is the driving force for a lot of the movie. Is that it's killing him, and he needs to find a replacement. And of course, this leads to the discovery that his dad had come up with the idea for a new element, but he couldn't manufacture it. So Tony had to be the one, because even Jarvis was like, "Oh, you can't make that," and he's like, "No, but hold my beer," you know. And basically what they did was they took a famous comic story arc, Demon in the Bottle, and they made that this. They kind of combined the two. So the effects of alcohol on Tony Stark is replaced by the effect of the palladium on his body, which is kind of a weird thing, but it almost works. When you think about it, then it starts to fall apart. But when you just kind of go with it and try not to compare the two, then it does work. It's kind of weird that way. But getting to the replacement for the palladium, they never name the element in the movie, and they still haven't. But if you go out to, if you go online and look it up, they'll tell you it's vibranium, that the element he created is vibranium. Where does that come from? Why is that on the internet? Why are people saying that? Well, it turns out in the novelization of the second Iron Man movie, they call it vibranium. That's what they say it is that he created vibranium. Well, does that mean that vibranium can be synthesized? That it can be man-made? No. What it means is that, like a lot of stuff, in the early days, Marvel was flying by the seat of their pants. You know, things that we look back on now and go, "Oh, that makes obvious sense. That makes perfect sense." Was by chance, you know. Thanos showing up at the end of the first Avengers movie. That was just something Joss Whedon wanted to do. That wasn't a plan. There was no plan at that point that, oh, we're going to do the Infinity Saga. It just kind of happened. Once Thanos was there, they sat down and went, well, now that we have him, and then they realized, oh, well, we could connect it to Captain America, because the Tesseract was supposed to be the Cosmic Cube. In the comics, the Cosmic Cube has nothing to do with the Infinity Stones. So they connected them, getting rid of the Cosmic Cube. In the comics, the Cosmic Cube is something completely different and has so many stories on its own. And they called it the Tesseract because Cosmic Cube is very Jack Kirby 1960s. So they got lucky, and then they looked over at Thor: The Dark World and went, well, we never did explain what we've got this ether thing that's going on. What if we make that part of it and just in the movie explain it? Okay, this is good. So they just started putting the pieces together once they made the decision to do the Infinity Stones, and then retconned it. So the idea that it was vibranium probably was something they're like, okay, and then we'll have vibranium. We'll be able to do things. Later on, they went, no, we're going to actually introduce Black Panther. There's going to be vibranium in that, we're going to go with that storyline, a little more traditional comic stuff. That's so bizarre. That's what Cap's shield is, right? So how could Tony invent it? That was the other flaw, is that if it was vibranium, yeah. But if you think about it, who created Cap's shield? Howard Stark. So Howard Stark created the element that Tony makes, but wasn't able to. He created it, but didn't make it. So maybe he was able to make a small. They could have made the story work, or maybe that was it. Is it? Maybe they were going to do the story of he found some vibranium, reverse engineered it, and figured out how to synthesize it. They could have gone that direction too. And I think that's probably the more likely what they did, was because Howard had access to vibranium in the Captain America movie, which is what the shield was made of, that tying it to, it would make a lot of sense. But the problem is that they kind of moved away from that. So it never gets resolved. We don't know what that element is. We know very little about it. And the really weird part is when he puts it into his arc reactor, puts it into his chest, we're supposed to get the idea that it's all this extra power. But I don't think it works that way. The arc reactor originally was created to keep the shrapnel from his chest. So adding all of this extra power to it, other than maybe it pulled more on the metal fragments, it's not like he's feeling that power, but it's added power to run the suit and stuff like that. But he acts like he's now supercharged by this conductor, which doesn't make any sense, or by this new arc reactor. And he even says it tastes like coconut, which had to be an ad lib. It's the only thing I can think of, is that had to be a Robert Downey Jr. ad lib, and they left it in. But it doesn't make any sense at all. So that got me on that one. The movie itself, there's the retconning in of the little boy he saves, as that's supposed to be Peter Parker now. And there's the appearances of Elon Musk. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in this movie. Ed says, if memory serves, it's been a while. Didn't Tony use a prototype model of Cap's shield to level the machine? That's the part that had me wondering what was up first time I saw it. Yeah, the prototype shield. And what's interesting is that the prototype shield was already painted. It already had the red, white, and blue on it. So again, maybe this was reverse engineering. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe that was the plan. You had this prototype shield, but they were reverse engineering it because in the Captain America movie, it seems like they had this metal. It was the rarest metal on Earth, and they made a shield out of it. Maybe they didn't make a shield out of it. Maybe that's how they found it. Maybe that is a Wakandan shield or a Wakandan disc or whatever, and they decided, well, let's make it into a shield. I don't know. There's a lot of little things like this in the MCU that don't make a lot of sense, Why would Tony Stark use that to make a shield? That just seems really, but, and it's not like he went, oh, I made you a shield, Cap. He had other ones he preferred, and just happened to have the one out of rarest metal. So again, I don't think Howard made the first shield. He probably found it. Because I doubt Howard would even have a way to do anything with vibranium. He's other than trying to reverse engineer it. So I kind of get the feeling that, they painted it, and then from there he tried to reverse to make it again, and that might have led him to this material. But I don't know. Just a lot of open questions there. Another thing that's really kind of strange is they really wanted to use the Crimson Dynamo. In the first movie, they were going to have the Crimson Dynamo. And they ended up deciding just to stick with one villain. And since Obadiah Stane already gets a armor in the comics, they just stayed that route and went with Ironmonger. But if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff where they show Stan Winston Studios building the armors and stuff, whenever they're looking at the Ironmonger suit, they refer to it as the Crimson Dynamo. Well, in the second movie, your villain is Whiplash, who is an Iron Man villain. But he's not an armor wearer. He's a guy that has whips. The first time we see Mickey Rourke as Whiplash is probably closer in design to what Whiplash looks like. Whiplash, of course, went on to be also known as Backlash. But it's just very different. And the name Ivan Vanko is not used in Marvel Comics. His father, Anton Vankov, was the Crimson Dynamo. So they tried to combine that together. So they're constantly trying to get to the Crimson Dynamo and then never use it. And I really don't understand why. It'd be neat to finally get to the Soviet super soldiers and have Crimson Dynamo and Red Guardian and Dark Star and Ursa Major, but that's starting to seem like less and less of a possibility. So overall, I think it's a good movie. They handled the Don Cheadle swap for Terrence Howard really well, with the one line he says when he walks into Congress, it's me, get over it. It's me, I'm here, get over it. And I really like that nod. But overall, it's a pretty straightforward movie. You get the relationship building between Pepper and Tony. You get the introduction of Black Widow. More establishment of Howard Stark connected to the version we see in Captain America. We get to understand that, yes, he's well, actually, this came out before Captain America First Avenger too, so yeah, they really don't have that figured out, do they, in the early days? It says maybe they were planning just in case the Thor and Cap movies failed and they had to go a different direction. That is possible. So it's a good movie. It is, and it continues Jon Favreau's fun tone. I love the fight scene with, Happy fighting the one guard while Natasha takes out like 8 of them or more. So, you really kind of get the feeling of how much of a badass she is, not just because she's taken out these guys easily, but because of how hard it is for Happy to take out one of them. I think that's a really nice establishment there. But yeah, I didn't realize I was going to talk about that so much, but we're now at the point we got to take our second break and do some key issues. So we'll come back with that just after this break.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did. Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Go follow The Experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We were just talking about Iron Man 2. By the way, please hit the like and subscribe buttons that are down there. And I agree with you, Ed. I thought the suitcase armor was cool because that's something from the comics. I thought I actually was okay with Whiplash. Justin Hammer was interesting. I thought Sam Rockwell was a lot of fun in that role. Not how I picture Justin Hammer, but he works. So to me, Jon Favreau's 2 Iron Man movies captured the heart of Iron Man, captured the spirit of the comics, along with, you know, the tone that would become the MCU. I think the third one was pretty good, not as good as the other 2. But different director, different ideas. But we'll get to that one. So let's go ahead and go into Iron Man 2 key issues. Now, we did key issues for Iron Man 1, so that covers a lot of the origins and first appearances of Iron Man, first appearance of Pepper Potts. So we had to change it up a little bit. So we start with first appearance of Whiplash. This was Tales of Suspense number 97 from 1968. This one's going for about $120, $30 for the median range, and $10 on the low end. I have a copy of this book. It's actually a good book. So from there, though, he changes his name to Backlash. This takes place many years later in Iron Man number 146 in 1981. This one is a low-end book. I mean, you can pick it up for $6, a great copy for $6, probably $1 or $2 for a reader copy. The interesting thing here is that he decides what he's missing from criminal success is a plume. He puts a green plume on. So, all right, let's move on. Now, again, for Tales of Suspense number 46 from 1963, this is the first appearance of Anton Vanko, who is supposed to be Ivan Vanko's father, aka the Crimson. This is the Crimson Dynamo, and it's also the second appearance of the Pepper Pot and Happy Hogan. So they had just been created. This one is Tony's still in his old gold Mark I armor. High end on this is $900. Median's about $280. Low end is about $90. Then we go to Tales of Suspense number 52. This is kind of a combination of things. This is the first appearance of Natasha Romanoff, or Romanova, what they called her then, aka the Black Widow, who was a bad guy in the beginning. And it's also the death of Anton Vanko. So having them both in the same movie made a lot of sense. This is going to cost you a pretty penny. This is a $6,000+ comic on the high end. Still going to close to $1,400-1,500 in the median, and still about $400 or more for a reader copy. After that, I threw this one in there for fun because this was shortly after the movie. Iron Man versus Whiplash #1 was a 4-issue miniseries where they took a character named Anton Vanko, not related to the Crimson Dynamo version, and turned him into Whiplash that appeared a lot like the character from the movie. He even had Iron Man's chest piece and arc reactor powering his whips. Now, the fact that they made an Anton Vanko here, not Ivan Vanko, is just bizarre to me. But if you're looking just for a fun little miniseries, you can pick this up if you really liked Iron Man 2. Also, we have, this was the first appearance of Justin Hammer. This took place in Iron Man #120 in 1979. This is a $65 comic on the high end, $18 for a medium copy. Low end's about $5. Plus Iron Man Submariner. Now this is an Iron Man Walmart DVD exclusive from 2008. So basically you bought the DVD, it came with this comic. Why is it important? It is the first comic appearance of Agent Phil Coulson. So he was created by Jon Favreau. He wasn't even supposed to be in the movie. There wasn't Agent Phil Coulson. There was multiple roles that Favreau got his buddy Clark Gregg to come in. He ended up putting all of the different little roles together into one, and you ended up with Agent Phil Coulson. Now, high end on this is going to be about a $75 comic. You're going to pay for about $20 in the median and about $8 for a low end version. But this is not supposed to be for resale. So if you're buying it, you're breaking the law. I guess if you're selling it. But so moving on. This is interesting. This is from Shattered Heroes. This is Battle Scars #1. And it's the first appearance of Marcus Johnson and Cheese. And you're probably thinking, why do I care? Well, just so you know, this is a $5 comic on the high end. You can get it for $1 or $2. But the reason that you care is that by the end of this miniseries, Battle Scars #6, Marcus turns out to be Nick Fury Jr., and Cheese is Phil Coulson. So as part of the Marvel Universe, you have these. And this also came out just before the Avengers movie, where we know what happened to Phil Coulson. So high end of this one's about $8. Low end's for $1 or $2, for a medium and low. So we also have, this is interesting. Besides the first appearance of Black Widow, here we have the debut of Black Widow's black bodysuit. Because up until then, she had this weird domino mask that flared out and fishnet stockings. She almost looked like a version of Black Canary. Here she gets the skin tight bodysuit and the flowing red hair where it used to be black. So the Black Widow we know made her appearance here. Amazing Spider-Man #86 in 1970. High end on this one is $250. Then $80 for a median copy, $25 for a low end. And here we have where she becomes an Avenger. This is Avengers 111 from 1973. This had both her and Daredevil co-starring. And I don't think I've read this issue, but does it look like their Avengers are about to be driven over or run over by Magneto behind the wheel of a car? Kind of looks like that. High end on this one, $60, $15 in the middle, and $5 for a low end version. Think that's all 11? Yep. So that is our key issues tied into Iron Man 2. Again, I think it was a really strong movie. I think back to back, they make a lot of sense. They're a good, they turned out to be a great starting point for the MCU, but there are moments, there are flaws, there are things that don't make sense. I will always, I do not understand why Obadiah Stane went after Stoney in the first place. We don't know what the metal is called. Was it supposed to be vibranium? Why did Cap have a prototype of, or why did Iron Man have a prototype of Cap's shield? There's a lot of stuff like that. But we kind of gloss over it. We accept it because of where we are now. And we don't, those kind of things we let slide for the most part on movies we like. When it's a movie we don't like, it gets called out all the time. So, I don't know. All right. I am not sure what the rest of this week is going to pertain, or what we're going to be doing in the next two shows. I have an idea for an episode, and I'm leaning towards doing that one day this week, which is basically taking a Marvel character that has not seen the light of day in the MCU and putting together a pitch for an MCU, like a Disney Plus series. So that's what I'm thinking about. I have a character in mind to do, and we'll do it live. We'll basically, I'll tell you who the character is, give you the background, and then we can work up a story. And you guys can throw in opinions and stuff. So I don't know, it's just for fun, but that's something we might do. And it says, I want to know why everyone can fly the armor their first try, but it took Tony forever. War Machine, for example, in Iron Man 2. I'm going to go with the fact that James Rhodes is, I was going to say he's a pilot. I think he's a pilot, isn't he? Yeah, in the comics he was a pilot. I don't know if they ever established that in the MCU. So I would assume that maybe that there's similarities to flight control, but also you would think that, well, no, he took the old suit, the one that Tony first flew. So I don't necessarily, I think by the time they got to the suit, flying it was made easy. I think the problem was all the problems Tony had to do with designing the suit, getting the thrusters right, getting the controls right. So that's my thought. It says, but the villain in the first Iron Man did it too. Then Pepper in Iron Man 3 and Iron Man villain. Yeah. Turns out the suits are just really easy to fly once you figure out the thrust ratio. So that was the problem Tony had, why he flipped up and slammed into the head thing, because he didn't have the thrust ratios down. And by the time, he finally did. I don't know. I don't have that one for you, Ed. I would love to see Marvel just get Lewis. You get Michael Pena to come back as Lewis and to explain all the plot holes. That's a Marvel special I want. Lewis explains the Marvel Universe. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up there. Stay tuned for In Stores this week. Coming up right now.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.